Ja, dat is toch perfect. Dit isoleert echt goed. Oh ja, dan horen we elkaar. Ja. Ja, die microfoontjes zijn supergoed voor het antigeluid. En ze zijn dus ook supergoed om het geluid van je collega's op te vangen.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. This is okay.
Hey, Paula.
Yeah, it's the back of you. You're
Ooh. I didn't enable my camera yet. Okay. Oops. Yeah, I need to go to the hairdresser.
Yeah, you're live on the internet now, so.
Yeah, everyone knows now.
I took a shirt on it today, so that's.
Ooh. Yeah, I got a message from Theo that he won't be with us anymore because R4 is out. So that was his main interest for joining these calls.
Okay.
So I wonder if Brian is gonna join us. I saw that I had his time zone incorrect in the agenda, but you know that's been there for weeks, and he always manages to be here on time. So probably I saw it was 7 o'clock now in the evening. His time. Yeah.
That's doable.
It's not too bad. And New York is 6 hours from us now again. Yeah. Yeah, 5 in the morning. So we don't have to expect our friends from the West Coast.
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Otherwise, so let me share the agenda for today. If we're just 3 of us, is fine too. Let's see. Screen. I'll share my screen. Yeah. So time zone converters.
Yep.
So this is actually just the action list items of the last time, because I think everything is in there that we need today. So since we know by now that editing in here while sharing your screen doesn't work at all, let's get back to Notepad.
Good old Notepad.
Good old Notepad. So these
there's a door ringing.
A door ringing.
Who is it? Kenneth.
Calling Norway.
Hey.
Yes, Kenneth. Hello.
Hey.
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Starting to enjoy the really long days now too there.
Yes, absolutely. Fun and even Yeah, I think we have about 10 degrees or something like that. So it's warm for us now, actually.
Oh, whoa.
So yeah, it's getting better.
Good.
Outside all day yesterday, and yeah, enjoying the weather.
The
Good.
trees and the grass start growing.
Yes, absolutely. Going from brown to green.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I should be visiting Norway and Sweden in summer instead of in winter, because my image is still just snow.
Yeah.
Snow and gold.
I
And
actually visit Norway and Sweden quite a lot. It's always in winter.
Yeah, you should try summer. It's actually very nice in the summer.
Yeah.
I planned my holidays for Norway this summer, but
yeah,
but it's not going through because of other personal reasons. So that's why no.
Okay.
Next year.
Yep. Good.
We have about 20 degrees in the summer, so 25 and even 30 sometimes during July. So yeah,
that is doable. Mm-hmm.
I was just displaying the action items. There's a few interesting things we can discuss, even with Brian not around. We have. Well, let's start just at the top of the list with the action items. Just make sure that's one of the things I really want to discuss. I thought it was here. Otherwise, I will put it here. There's one thing is separation of DS2 and FHIR path common parts. Okay. So first, the only action item was Luke. Last time, just 2 weeks ago, in our other time frame, Luke was on the call and he said that he was he has put in a lot of effort. Oh,
another door ringing.
Another door ringing. He has put in a lot of effort in.
US working group. Yeah, because all of the US government people don't have one.
Yeah, there's Brian.
I'm gonna show you something really funny. Look, these are my colleagues on the floor there. They're doing core training on the floor here.
I'm not sure we have to live stream this.
What's that? Yeah?
I'm not sure we can live stream this.
Oh. So anyway, welcome Brian for joining us. We were just starting on the action item list. And the first item was look to backport change to SU3. It's funny, we discussed having net4 support back in our stack, and Luke had a small pull request enabling net4. And now he sent a new pull request, which is mega, lots of useful changes, but it's all against STU4. So he's going to backport those to STU3, so we don't have to do that.
In the coffers, which would be good, but we sort of have to get up. You know, for an international event, we have to hit some pretty
Is this you, Brian?
Yes, it is definitely me.
Yeah, I hear a lot of English text in the background. Oh, maybe not anymore.
There we go.
He's going to stop sending a significant delegation. That's the question, right?
No, there's something about the significant delegation. Does that come from you, Brian?
Because they have.
I think it is.
I think it is.
So Luke is going to backport those changes. He just sent me an email. Oh, Luke.
Where is he then?
Yeah, where is he?
Well,
I'm in Sydney on Darling Harbour at the pub.
Gosh, look at that.
It's going to be a very interesting day.
You have a beer there too. That's nice. And so Luke
oh dear.
Yes, a beer there too.
Luke sent me an email this morning or yesterday, actually, saying that he had been out both for holidays and for business. So he didn't backport it yet, but he fully realized it was still on the task list. So he wanted me to be able to report that to you. So I think that's really nice that he did that, because this is not normally the call that he is joining. And so the only thing that's hard for us, I think, is that his pull request now has both stuff to enable the use of .NET 4 for our API and other, less related things. He has improvements to the unit tests and so on. So Marco and I are looking to his pull request to see the impact of pulling everything at once. So that's going on for that. Luke is still going to work on that. So in the notes, Luke is still working.
Got also this X unit out of the way, right?
Yeah, he is removing, when he's removing X unit.
Where he finds some code he has to change, he also changed that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. His PR is not only scoped to .NET 4 anymore, but also contains improvements to tests and other bits in the project files. Marco and I are looking at the impact of pulling it all. It does contain quite some if devs for now for .NET 4, which it didn't used to have, but that's in the tests. He even ported the specification library, which means he needs external zip libraries to make the unzipping of the specification.zip file work. So there's now quite some if devs.
So you're using the sharp zip stuff?
Yeah, the stuff that we had in once a long time ago.
Yep.
We're having more conditional code, which which has its risks. To be perfectly honest, I like, as if Luke doesn't need .NET 4 support anymore and no one's standing up, the first thing I'd like to do is to be able to remove it easily. Now this will mean we have to remove the if devs everywhere in the code. So again, Marco and I are assessing the impact. First, I thought there were lots of files impacted, but then I realized that there's a lot of work just improving the unit tests. So it's not all if devs everywhere, but it's a substantial pull request now. Let's see. .NET 4 compatibility. It used to be a few files. Now you can see it's 48 files changed, only 11 commits. So it's pretty impactful. So we want to take a good look at this before we move on. Okay, that's that. Brian, PR, remove web API code, add some functionality from web API that is useful for the core API. Okay, I did see a pull request, Brian, to DS2, but was it this?
No, it's not that one. So that was, going back to that first bullet point, the separation of the FHIR path and common paths. Is that related to the DS2 stuff I was looking at, or is that something else?
No, this bullet here? This one?
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't discussed that yet. It's just making sure that we're gonna deal with that. So that's the last bullet in this list.
Yep.
The minutes start here. So you didn't miss anything.
That. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I guess you
can't really stay for too long. I've got others here. But I thought I'd better poke my head in case you wanted to quickly chat about that stuff.
Yeah, otherwise we can just switch to that one. Or so to finish off this action item, this maybe you didn't do yet, Brian?
Nope.
Okay. So the separation of these two and FHIR path common parts. Let's do that then. So you can join your beers again. So last time on this meeting, you said there's an interesting bit where we have, of course, our .NET API has some POCO specific stuff that we all know. These are the specific, I would say mostly is still called core and specification. And there's of course the non-POCO stuff, which is element model, FHIR path, and so on, and more and more, of course. Now, since we have decommissioned DSTU2, Brian had a very good there. He said, well, DSTU2, of course, has its own POCO-specific stuff, but it depends on element model and FHIR path. If we're not updating DSTU2 anymore, but we are updating element model and FHIR path, I think, Brian, and that's what you tried to say, is that to have DSTU2, STU3, and R4 running in one application domain, using aliases, you can have your specific core and specification, but element model and FHIR path are shared in the application domain because you can just load one version of that stuff. So if you want to run DSTU2, STU3, R4 in parallel, the common parts need to be the same version.
Yes. So
that's a problem.
That's where we're sort of suggesting. So we kind of need to keep pushing DSTU2, even if we're not going to actually change anything just for compatibility.
It's not enough to power up one.
Yeah, for binary compatibility, that is.
Yep.
This is binary compatibility.
Yep.
This of course is I think a problem because if we change the interface on anything in element model and FHIR path, we really have to maintain SDSU2.
Yeah.
So I think there are two strategies, and that is one, as you said, keep updating DSTU2 to make sure there is binary compatibility with the common libraries.
Yep.
And it also still means no new functionality, huh?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
And I think it's probably the point where we need to start telling the community, hey, this is an issue and we're not going to keep this up forever. I'm happy to do that work. So I think the decision we made was STU3 is going to be our base and we're going to do all development there and then merge up or merge to 4 and then 5, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy to do the backport to DSTU2 to keep it ticking.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, because it means it means copying, the stuff in element model from either 3 or 4, because there shouldn't be a lot of difference, on top of STU2 and make sure it still compiles and works. That's what it does. There is, however, another option that I just like to consider, and it is we do one more release of DST2 with a FHIR path.dstu2, an element model.dstu2, and so on, which is the frozen versions.
Yeah.
Of these libraries for DSTU2, and then we have totally uncoupled the two.
But when FHIR path is going normative, it sort of feels a bit weird to have a FHIR path DSTU2 and a normative FHIR path.
Well, that's one of the reasons I actually do like the second bullet point, because normative FHIR path, as much as we're being told, is not backwards compatibility with the current FHIR path. And so if we're gonna, I wish to, I think somewhere in June, I'm really going to update FHIR path to normative. And that means that because I expect it will go normative during the workgroup meeting here in Montreal, and so then it makes sense to update the rest. I know HL7 is going to have a technical update to 3 and 4 to make sure that the invariants, the FHIR path invariants, are going to be updated for normative. But they're not going to do that with DSTU2. So if we upgrade the FHIR path engine to normative, I'm afraid DSTU2 will break in some places. It might not be major, but it is work again to keep DSTU2 working. We might have to go over all the invariants and fix the backwards compatibility issues.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing maybe we just need to reach out to our user community and see how much longer do people think they're going to be with DSTU2 for?
Yeah, Marco and I checked the recent downloads because that's always a good measure. How much of our recent versions is being downloaded, and you can see that it's still downloaded. Marco, do you remember vaguely the numbers? I only hear you live here, but not in your microphone.
I should turn on the microphone. That's better, probably. Sorry about that. Well, we looked at those numbers when we just released R4. So it was really not at the beginning of it. We saw a slight winning on the STU3. Also the DSTU2 a bit, because I think people just hit the upgrade button or something like that in Visual Studio. But yeah, R4, I think STU3 was the winning one. I don't know the numbers. It was 20 for DSTU2 and 64 3 and 24 for R4.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I was saying DSTU2 is still about, in my mind, about 20-25% of the downloads. So there's definitely still a user base. Which might make it worth worth trying to keep DSTU2 updated. It's just that we really need, and so I'm glad Brian offers, really need someone to pick up that work, because we are running both out of capacity and investment for DSTU2. Since our company
it's
itself
a pretty limited thing. I've got enough unit tests to be happy that I can keep that up, and when that becomes an issue, we can worry about it then. So I think it's, let's do 3, move that forward to 4, and I'll bring back to 2 when needed.
Yeah, that's just the common parts, right? Which don't change a lot currently.
Correct.
The biggest change to expect is the FHIR path to normative change, which will have me rewrite parts of the FHIR path engine.
I think at that point we're really looking at those that are going to be using multi-version will just have to switch across to the new FHIR path, and those that are not are just going to get stuck on 0.96 where most of our prod stuff is, or 1.3 or 4 or something.
Yeah, that's what Marco and I were thinking. I think a lot of the downloads, a lot of the DSTU2 software is in the same state as we are, and that is, it's being maintained, but it's not being updated anymore. So I can see people downloading 0.96 because that's what they developed it against, and nothing happened afterwards anymore. So that's probable. And this second bullet, this is a really good plan B. At any moment, if we really need to, there is a solution for this problem, and that is creating the DSTU2 versions of these.
I think that's a pragmatic approach, and I'm all behind that.
And couldn't we also do another technical part that's because DSTU2 refers to these common libraries in the packages? Is there also a technical that we say we only want that version to be included and not the new ones?
Yeah, you can do that, but then you cannot, like Brian, both Brian and Martijn, they have to load in all versions.
That's the problem. Okay.
That's the real problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
From where I sit, I'm planning on getting my services up to where I'm happy that it's all running across all 3 at the moment. So the 1.3 or 1.2 is not quite there yet. Once I get those up to the same quality that 0.96 was, I'm happy just to say, okay, we've got a new baseline. Let's cut it off there and say done, and do your last item.
Yeah, so I'm hearing, Brian, that for you, so let's say commercially, it's useful to maintain a few more versions of DSTU2 till both you and Martijn are in a happy situation to technically maybe do point B, but first you need this update to get to that state. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, 0.96 was a good release. Still not happy that the current stream since then, so we don't have an R4 compatible thing that's happy. So I just want to get one version that we're happy is at the same quality that 0.96 was, and say, yep, all right, we've got a nice base.
And that has to do with the FHIR value list stuff that we discussed.
Yeah, so all those little things. So
Yeah.
the stuff that's in that pull request, and there's a handful others that I've got to still go through. But yeah, so it's not a huge amount.
No.
But yeah, tidy up.
No, there were actually, as I wrote, I was happy with most of the updates here in this package. So let me see files. And there is a way.
I can tell you that the DST2 had 215 downloads for now, and STU3 529, and R4 327. So it's really behind the others now.
Oh right, yeah.
I'm pretty impressed with how many R4 there is there.
How many were there? Those, Marco?
327.
Oh right, yes.
And STU3 529.
Actually,
and what's
Brian,
impressive is that's none of me.
no.
That R4 set's not me at all.
Yeah.
Actually, most of your changes are to tests, interestingly, Brian.
Yeah, there's very little.
There's very little here. Yeah.
That FHIR path, there was just a handful. And yeah.
Okay, so what we do need to do if we want to go on in this vein is that your DSTU2 pull request will need equivalents for 3 and 4. That might be trivial.
Yeah, I'll do those.
And we have changes to, I have changes, of course, I have 2 pull requests that change to make changes to FHIR path and element model to cater for the FHIR value list equivalents that you need. And these are done in 3 and 4, so these need to be back in 2. But actually, I think it's best if we have the forward support of your stuff, and then in the end we copy the common parts into DSTU2, because I think the FHIR path engine should be literally the same in all releases anyway. It's just for binary compatibility that we're doing this. Okay, fine. Is there anything else, Brian, that you want us to discuss now so we can let you go?
No, that was the only real issue that we'd sort of had. I guess it sort of just re-brought up the how much longer are we going to put up with DSTU2? I guess it was just the feedback. I just wanted one snapshot where we've got all 3 releases on the same cut, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. Yeah. And that brings your DSTU2 pull request, because there was another subject, into context 2. So
that's all it is. It's me trying to get all 3 onto the same path. Okay. So anything I've put back there will be going up into the new stuff. So there's a little bit more to come through yet, but I thought I'd just start trickling it through, and it brought up the conversation. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Have fun with your evening, and yeah, speak to you later. Right. Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, so that's the
Crew. Looks very nice.
That's Darling Harbour. So 2020 HL7 conference. You'll be able to come down here and have a drink at this very spot.
Wow. Looking forward to that.
Right. No worries.
Do we see you in Montreal, Brian, or not?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good to know.
All right, we'll see you all there.
See you later. Bye.
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 I have to leave the call now. But
you were influenced by the beer or what? You saw, you have to leave the conference.
Yeah, I have to leave it. No, but yeah, we have some stuff we need to do today, and taking the day off to do them. So
all right.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to? Is there anything interesting otherwise that you want us to discuss, or you have heard everything you wanted to know?
No, I'll probably look through the video later. But I added some stuff to the E900 issue with the variable expressions and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I added some text there. And yeah, we can probably discuss that the next meeting.
Are you coming over to Montreal?
I haven't decided yet, actually. But
Oh, that's in a week.
That's
oh no,
in
2
a
weeks.
week?
3? No, it's not
In
true.
May, right?
Isn't it in May?
It's in May. It's in May, but it's coming beginning of May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to make up my mind. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
The good thing is, we'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah. You had one more thing, or Evan?
Well, the flight tickets were still cheap, so
Yeah.
we booked the ticket last week, so they were like under 500 euros, so that was quite okay.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. I am a member. I am part of the technical steering committee in HL7 Norway now, so I probably can get that refunded or something.
No, that's nice.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you,
I'll
Kenneth.
talk to you on the next call.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
And then we were with 3.
Yay. Okay. So let's see. So this action item remains because there was something else. Marco put release notes in the release tab on GitHub. That is done.
Yep. It's also in the steps in the documentation how to release it, that you also have to do that. So
yeah, it's really nice. It was a good suggestion from someone on the GitHub. So we do that. Brian, to generate the implementation of iSummary dev provider, still a very good idea. And George and Ewout will start to split off common code for real. Yay. Yes, George, I've seen your pull request. I think it's fine.
Yeah, the first one, the initial one.
Yeah, now it's just a matter of us to decide when to do this, because the longer we wait, of course, the more we have chance of merge conflicts.
Yep.
And I think the stuff that you did do is low risk.
Yeah.
Actually, the only real thing you changed was making that internal thing public, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just moving around files. Now we know Git is, Git. If Git has a problem with something, it's moving and renaming files. So something tells me that if we are okay with this PR, we shouldn't wait too long.
That's also my opinion, because otherwise we have a lot of problems in the later on.
Okay, so that means I will probably just do it this week.
Okay, that's great. Okay, as an update, there are some things that does bother me a lot. I don't think we can move forward with the changes, especially with the resource, unless we break the interface for good. Yep. Because what we tried to take out the constraint component from the element definition into the base vocal, it's not enough. Constraint component uses constraint severity, and constraint severity is used in many places.
So you're saying we have to wait till 2.0 of the library to go on?
Yes, or I don't know. We take the chance to take out the invariants from resource.
Yeah, that's a breaking change. We discussed that on our call with the two of us.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of functionality that I think people are using, especially Brian is using it.
Yes, but I remember in one meeting, the one we had, I think the first one we had with also the colleagues in the US, Brian said that he could find a way to avoid that if we need to take it out.
I also remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we could solve it for the others, but I think Brian would be okay with it, with this.
So are you suggesting that these changes are small enough that we can make them in a 1.x release?
They're not small.
They're not small.
It depends on how many users are using the invariant.
Well, we have no ID.
Yeah. And another thing is I made the comparisons. How is it called?
Yeah, comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, between STU3 and R4, and most things are easy, but there are the ones that we have new elements, new properties, and the serialization order has changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. And also in the operation outcome, the issue component class no longer implements iBackbone element, but instead it has a new attribute option. And that's tricky to solve using the code analyzer.
So it's about this operation outcome?
Yes, I think so.
This is R4. This still is backbone element. So what changed?
Well, in the code, it's backbone element, but it's the check. I don't think is done anymore through the interface. It's done using an attribute.
So is this a change in FHIR or was this a change in the C# library?
In C#.
So there's something we generated differently in. Okay, let me open backbone element. This is in STU3. You probably need me to switch to R4 to see what you mean. It's a change to backbone element, right? Or is it a change to?
No, to issue component in operation outcome.
Okay. Is operation outcome, issue component. This one, I guess. So something changed here.
This is STU3. Yeah, you see it implements the iBackbone element.
Yep. iBackbone element, it does.
Yeah, in R4 it doesn't.
Oh, that could well be a mistake.
I don't know if it's a mistake or it's an
empty. It's an empty interface.
Yeah, I know.
It's actually that's a problem if it doesn't implement iBackbone element.
I think the check in R4 now is done because of the attribute option.
What's the attribute option?
I'm looking for it right now.
That's interesting. I think I use this dead interface to determine. So both backbone, all issue components are marked iBackbone element, I think.
Yeah. So in the FHIR type attribute, right after the issue component string, there is a named backbone element set true.
Right. Instead of this empty iBackbone element.
Yeah.
That should be the same in 3 and 4. That's a mistake that happened, I think. I know why I added it. I just didn't realize that I thought that this would have been that we synchronized both approaches, but obviously we did not. Okay, you can see it in here. It is in POCO structure definition summary provider. I think I really need it somewhere here. class mapping dot is backbone. That's what I'm dependent on. And interestingly enough, so all that logic is in the mapping. Yeah, in the mapping class. So let's jump to class mapping. Is backbone. Yeah. Yeah, so here I do can be treated as type I backbone element. And so I think you're saying, Georgia, that we do this differently in R4.
Okay, let me check. Actually, no.
So we wonder what we are using that other thing for.
Is this, it doesn't check on I backbone element in R4?
It's the same.
Or is it the same?
Yeah, it's type of I backbone
Which
element.
means that that in operation outcome, if it doesn't have I backbone element anymore, that's a problem because this is quite an important difference.
Yeah, but you have also, oh no. By the way, can be treated as a type is here without the interface I backbone.
Sorry, Marco?
Now, if you go back to the other one where you came from.
Hello? Oh, this here, you mean? This this one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can see that there is not, it's the type of backbone element, not type of I backbone element. So that is treated differently here.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a logic there. This is a double question mark. If it's not a backbone, if it's not a backbone, then it's simple. It's the name of the class, substituting the differences with quantity. If it is a backbone and it is really of type backbone element, then it's a backbone element, and otherwise it's an element, because element stuff is also marked as I backbone element. But now George is mentioning it. I think I did solve that using an extra attribute in the FHIR type instead of this empty I backbone element interface. So we have differed there between 3 and 4, which is not good in any case. And so we should remove that difference, Georgia. That shouldn't keep us from splitting off. Or we should fix that. And so we should make an action item, an extra action item here. Georgia, would you mind creating an issue to sync the I backbone elements? And the other thing is the attribute, eh?
Yeah, named. It's an option in FHIR.
Named backbone element?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they're not doing exactly the same thing, but we should definitely take a look at this because it. Okay. Other things in the comparisons, Georgia.
The biggest things are the new elements, the new properties that change the serialization order so far.
Do we have an approach for dealing with serialization order changes?
Not yet.
No, because that requires to have the order element probably being tagged with this is the order element for the STU3, this is the order element for STU4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And another thing would be that if we decide to take out the invariants from resource, I think the code would be cleaner, because
Oh yeah,
I don't think that's the place where they should be.
I agree.
Also, if we take it, let's say right now, the only thing that would bother us is the changes in the meta. And they are, again, serialization order change. Also, if we keep the element definition, not really the element definition. For example, if we keep the operation outcome in the, if we keep the invariants in the resource, we have a chain of references that won't let us do the separation very easy.
Sorry, can you, if you what, sorry?
Okay, so if we keep the invariants in the resource, there are a lot of reference. For example, we need an extension of base to typed element. And that requires another resource and so on. And also we need the FHIR path.
Yeah. Now that is already common, but I can see where you're going. Yeah, so it would be really good to remove it from resource, but I really expect that people are using it. So we have to have a good upgrade path for people who are using it. And I think we can only do it in 2.0.
Okay, but I guess that's not in the near future.
Probably after 1.3, I have the idea on it.
I think it's not that far away, George. I think it's this year.
Oh, okay.
Because Marco and I are going to review. So I am going to review the FHIR path engine, and Marco is reviewing the validation. And I am sort of pretty sure that we'll find a few more of these things that we're like, okay, this is a breaking change. We really need to go to 2.0. So I expect 2.0 to be somewhere this summer or just after it. My gut feeling, huh?
Okay. The thing is that there are a lot of files that have changed or are going to be changed.
Yeah.
And I cannot do a pull request right now.
No.
So I guess there will be also changes in the STU3 branch. So when I'm gonna do the pull request, there will be conflicts.
Yep. Yeah, if we really decide not to do this until 2.0, we better put, this a bit on hold, because we can't keep that pull request branch updated easily, right?
Yeah. I would say to put it on hold at least until we finish with the big changes, with the big features.
Yeah. I think what we should do outside this meeting is that Marco, you and I will take a look at the changes that are required to make sure that we agree that we can't do this in 1.x release. And if we decide to do it in 2.0, then we need to hold off work, continue work. That's why I asked you, George, to make these 2 pull requests. If you've done a simple pull request and this one more involved, so we can at least start with the separation and have some files there, and then continue the work on the other one later, because we will have merge conflicts. Okay, so we will determine outside of this meeting how impactful the changes for the invariants on a resource are, and then most likely we need to wait to 0, which means the PR George is working on will not be, will need to be updated with the changes since now. Better to pause work on that branch until we know how to move forward. Okay. Maybe depending on what Marco is going to do this week, we can have a meeting either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But I'll talk to Marco about that, George. Okay. So we can have a meeting with the 3 of us.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything? Yeah, maybe interesting for you to know, George, is that Marco has started to work on the validator. Marco.
Yeah, indeed. I had well, we had a nice discussion last week, Ewout and I, about the validator to refactor those that thing, because it's now a quite big monolith, and we want to break it up in a few blocks. Ewout already started that, I think, 1 year ago, or maybe longer. we were still in the time we call it navigators and not I-typed elements. In that time, it was.
Remember this to do? That's on the list for a long time. Able to schedule a meeting how proposed change to the internals of the validator, delayed until further notice. That's the one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. So, well, I picked. There was one validation about bindings that I already
pulled.
We already.
Yeah.
Pulled. Yeah, that's true. And now we going to expand that, and there was also another branch of Ewout you already made, and I take that up. I take that now as like of a default, or just to watch all those changes there, and change it in my pull in my branch. And yeah, a lot of work to do. I was programming last week. Quite a long time now. That's a long time ago I did that. This was nice again.
Before the weekend. Oh, it's a long time ago that you
indeed. Could almost not stop, so that's a good sign. So I will continue on that this week. So I have 2 API weeks actually now. So yeah, I took the smaller things now, so that to understand the structure a bit. So I think I have a big challenge for the other ones, for the most not the important, but the most difficult ones still have to come up. So hopefully I'm going to overcome those problems there. Yeah. So what can I tell more about it? Yeah.
Well, there's what I'm looking for at this moment. Let's see if that's somewhere else, because new validator. What I did do last time I worked on it, and I haven't showed you even, Marco, is have a few bullet points with requirements that I want to achieve with the new validator.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, what we want to achieve is that we can easily compose validations out of smaller validations, so you can be more precise about which validations you want to run.
Yep.
Now it's all or nothing.
Mhm.
And what we'd like to include on the validation side is the stuff that is run if you do the we have this bit now in the parser, remember, permissive parsing, and some of that stuff is would actually be really good as a small block. And so you could say, I want the structural validations, but I don't want the other validations. So we can more dynamically say, after parsing, do the basic validations about and it not everything that's in structure definition, but just the basics, and that would give us much more flexibility.
Yeah.
And other requirements that I once put down is Brian once asked us to review the way we encode errors in the validator, so you can easily localize them in another language. Because now we just have pretty technical English messages, and he said if we have enough detail about the error, you could rephrase it in another language, or maybe for another end user. Yeah. Like profile author probably wants a different kind of error than someone who is actually, is a technical writer, is a developer himself. And our errors now have to find the sweet spot between being technically precise, but also sometimes full of jargon.
Yeah.
So Brian said, really, if the result of a validation, say, for example, of a cardinality validation, has both the lower and the upper bound, and also the number of the actual count that you found in the instance, then I can write a message saying, hey, user, I found 4 times this element, and it should be between 0 and 10, much more text, and that way explain better what happens. And so that is an interesting thing to keep in the back of our minds. So I have a few more of these requirements here that I should maybe put into a new wiki page.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss it. Detail level of errors must be configurable, because now I can tell you when you're debugging, you can see if you put on full debugging and tracing in the validator, the amount of strings generated and stuff is actually pretty heavy on the GC. So there are a few more of these things. So let me just promise you that I will turn this, I will put this in the notes, another action item for me. Eva will turn the requirements for the new validator in his OneNote into a wiki page. Yeah, that's better for everyone.
And we also had like you also made like 1 year ago, like a kind of assertion page, right? With which blocks you are hitting and what is it using. Last Thursday, the last thing I did was running a debug window, and it came up with that block. So that was my first result last Thursday. So that was also my last working day last week. So that was nice. So I have some small block, but saying it's using this this basic node, basic validation block for this resource. It was very nice to see that.
Okay, nice. Excellent. So I think that's all for now.
Yeah.
And depending, as I said, depending on Marco's agenda for the rest of the week, we will see each other either soon or in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks is the US version, and I probably will either be just have landed on Schiphol or not, or be in the air. So
are you coming back from or is that your holiday?
Yeah. I'm coming back from Marbella.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah. So it might be George, and Marco we'll have to run that one.
I think I will also miss the next one because it's the Easter here.
It's over a week later, right, than our Easter.
Here it is on 28th.
Okay, yeah, that's another one. We have it next week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also, just a further notice, I'll be off on 26, 28, 29, and 1st May.
First May.
Yeah, that's the only thing we don't celebrate in the Netherlands, the 1st of May. And not be around the next poll. So,
So it's up to me now.
yeah, or we cancel it.
I have another thing. I am also not there now. That's
Okay.
for Brian. He can do that.
Yeah.
The US one, it's not so nice for him. No.
We'll decide about that,
Yeah.
depending on whether we have actually issues to discuss. Otherwise, we can easily, skip that one. Okay, it's at the top of the hour, so thank you. And
Okay.
speak to you later.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.